This is always the fun beginning part of the stream where we hear animals attempting to either escape or obtain access to your she shed, aka the closet. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I don't know where you're at. And you know what the beauty is? I don't need to know where you're at because you're
Who
here. That's the
cares?
beauty of YouTube. Hello, Andy Cruz. Thank you for letting us know that you're in the nude. Hi to Wanda, Donna's Crafty Creations. Happy Monday, happy Monday. Welcome into Lurker's Logic. How are you
Yeah,
doing?
Andy always is good to, just let us know things that we don't need to know. So we
Right.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
Hey, Testicle.
the TMI guy. But he is
And
a supporter
Vicious.
always.
Is that Vicious Amara, right?
Yeah. Farm girl
Yep.
Yaya. Nada's Kitchen. And Testicle.
Hey, Nadas.
What's up, Life Rewinded? Uh, well, forget my question in Discord. Okay. Forgotten. I never knew what it was. That was so convenient. Thank you. Hello, Sally Spencer. What's up? So you
Yeah,
guys know,
Farm Girl, is glad that we're on it this time. And then we have other people that wish that we would go earlier. So we never know exactly. It's really the most convenient time for me because, everything revolves around me, right?
right?
So,
Yeah. Unfortunately, I do know it's getting to be ridiculous, but you might be worth putting up with it. I don't. Uh, I got a question.
okay.
Okay, never mind. I just scrolled up and answered it. All right. So, for the sake of time, listen. We know that mostly we're kind of like a replay channel. Hopefully, we're a replay channel. But to save a little bit of time, to say hi to everybody that comes in. I might not be able to pin comments tonight because I have a lot of screens in front of me, thanks to someone. Um,
Hey,
but
Alyssa.
hi, Alyssa. But yeah, we want to give our feedback or our thoughts rather, because it's not our business. But want to give our thoughts on the True Helper saga.
Yeah, we're going to be discussing something, and if you missed, the Whiskey Project had a stream on Saturday, where there was basically, I would call it a confrontation with True Helper on her stream. So if you missed that one, you might be out of the loop a little bit. We're not going to really recap the whole situation, but I think that people kind of understand at least parts of it, the parts that we're going to discuss. We're not, we don't have a relationship with True Helper at all, and so we definitely have that lurker's perspective, that outsider perspective. We don't have a relationship with the players, and we just watched everything like everybody else did, right? Without having personal knowledge, which is really something that the creators need to keep in mind, that there's so many people that are clueless because they're not behind the scenes, and so their perspective is based on just what they see on YouTube and nothing
Yeah.
else.
Well, and
um,
Nada is asking for background on it. And I think if you go over to Whiskey Gypsy's channel, you'll get the gist of it in about 5 minutes or so, I think.
I think you can listen to this stream and then go over there kind of to get even more information.
We'll try not to be
um,
confusing.
Yeah, we'll try. And we've given people a hard time for doing this before,
Yeah,
where they just talk
I
about
have.
something and half the audience has no idea what it's about. but the recap would just be tedious, and I don't think that it's necessary. We're going to be discussing this in the fairest and most logical way that two flawed humans can. Okay, so I mean, we're not going to get everything right, of course, and we're probably going to slightly offend people on both sides of this situation, but that's just because we're trying to be fair here.
Well, it's not
Um,
on purpose.
right, it's not on purpose. So if you hear something that you don't like,
Sorry.
just yeah, keep listening, because you will probably hear something you agree with later. So try to hear us out with an open mind.
Mhm. Please do. And also, yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna speak on it to the best of our understanding. So if we get something wrong in the chat, you know, go ahead and let us know. We're not gonna be offended or butthurt or anything by that.
Okay, so you know, basically the controversy um, started with the story that True Helper had been shot in the back, okay, and he was in serious condition. And then later, we found out that he had claimed to have been shot in the back before,
Mhm.
and not too long ago. Um, and so, we want to handle this point right off the bat. Is that we are very skeptical that True Helper was shot in the back on two separate occasions. Okay, we have our skepticism about that because, like we've discussed before, we do reserve the right to disbelieve anyone
Yeah.
that on YouTube. Um,
And
the
and
thing,
it's not required. You're not look, if somebody makes a claim on YouTube, you're not required to believe that claim. We're not. We don't have to believe them. We don't have to run around telling them that they're liars, but we don't have to believe it in our mind. You know what I'm saying?
right, exactly. We have thought that a lot of people were lying about a lot of things, and we never said anything because we couldn't
Sorry.
prove it. We couldn't prove it one way or the other. So we didn't call them a liar, and we didn't believe them at the same time.
And worse things, by the way, this is just me, my own feeling. Worse things than this thing happened to me, and I don't need anything to fix it. Like, by the way. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes up that's fantastical. Just saying.
um, about about the shooting. He claims that he works, and this is just my understanding. Okay,
Mm,
let me make sure I have the chat pulled up in case anyone's disagreeing with me. I need to see if I get anything wrong.
yeah.
But he claims that he works with drug dealers for the purposes of finding missing people, or he has in the past and may slightly still do that, because he's still slightly involved with helping to find people.
Mhm.
And I get the feeling that most of the time they may have drug problems with
Sure.
addiction. Um, and then he is also involved with helping people in recovery, um, people who use drug dealers. So I've got the impression that he's around dangerous situations, okay, from time to
Right.
time. Um, so if you're involved in that world, you can put your life in serious danger.
Mhm.
Um, and I know that he's not a police officer, and that was made very clear on the Whiskey Project stream. Um, but just speaking about people that are kind of in that drug dealer world or involved in it, even if they're not buying or selling, but they're poking around in that world from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, I had a police officer friend who primarily dealt with drug dealers, and he was ran over by a car while he was on duty, and he survived it. And then a few years later, he was shot by a drug dealer, and he didn't
Mhm.
make it. And I'd love to say his name because he deserves to be remembered, but that's not
Yeah.
a good idea for me to
Yeah, it's
do.
sad, yeah.
But so I know that True Helper, he's not a police officer, but if you're involving yourself in the drug dealer world and you're poking around or asking questions, it's not implausible that you could be seriously injured more than one time, okay?
Mhm.
But to me, it's just not probable that you would survive twice the type of injury that True Helper claims to have sustained. So that's just the way that I feel
We're
about it.
just talking about the likelihood of this scenario, right? And I think
Right.
we're allowed to say things like this. Last I checked. But that's good, background information because
Christy A says that she has a friend that's a repo man that's been hit by a car twice.
yeah, I don't doubt it. I
And
wanted to run a
hopefully
repo man over before too. Well, he was a tow truck driver, but whatever.
hopefully Christy's friend survived twice,
Right,
you
exactly.
know.
Okay. So,
Do
let's
you
see,
have
where am I here?
any
Uh,
thoughts on that?
yeah, I mean, again, I just kind of go back to the whole situation. Look, I've lived in places where there were people selling drugs in the apartment buildings. I got attacked by some of those people. I got attacked by the same person more than once. But if people didn't want to believe that, that's fine. I don't necessarily need them to believe it for it to be true because it happened to me. And I think I got the impression that he was kind of a true helper was kind of the same mode of thinking. Like, that's fine. You don't have to believe it. That's just the impression I got. This isn't someone that I know.
Right.
Let's see. And then also, I think we wanted to talk about. Hang on one second. Maybe I got a little lost. I'm going to let you take over for just a second.
Okay. Um, so we're going to be referring to the people on the other side of this issue as the accusers, okay? Um, they're accusing him of a lot of things, and it's a lot of people. There's been several people on panels, different creators who have accused him of different of basically, to my understanding, what they're accusing him of is being an emotional scammer.
Mhm.
And that's a thing now, the emotional scamming thing. And they have not shown that he gained anything by lying to people except to play with their emotions. I mean, in their opinion, he just wants to gain trust, and scam people emotionally.
Mhm.
Um, and that includes people on YouTube and people in recovery.
Mhm.
Even though they have to admit that he has helped people in recovery in this community
Right.
by working with them off of YouTube and,
Mhm.
talking to them on the phone and, behind the scenes. I mean, that has been admitted by
Yeah.
the people that he's helped, and even the people that are accusing him of being an emotional scammer. They do know that he has helped people. Um, it's the way that this whole story came about. Is what's so interesting to me about him being an emotional scammer, because if he was trying to emotionally scam people on YouTube by claiming to be shot the second time, right? Because we didn't know that he had told people he had been shot before.
The first
Most of
time,
us
yeah.
didn't know that, because the people that didn't know him personally didn't know about that.
Right.
But the strange thing is that he didn't announce it on YouTube. Um,
True. He didn't. It was someone that knew him that
right.
announced it.
Well, someone that knew him informed a YouTube friend, and that friend announced it on YouTube.
Right.
And in a stream on YouTube, and
Yep.
that person that announced it has since said, um, I probably shouldn't have done that. I didn't really have permission to do that. I may have jumped the gun by doing that. And she was asking for prayers
Yeah.
because,
Yeah.
she felt like he needed prayers. But
Hang on one second. Christy A says, nope, someone from another community. Are you talking about what Speak Truth with Love is addressing right now with the announcement or something else? Is it not related to the story? I just want to make sure we're not getting it wrong if Christy's trying to correct us.
well, you and I were in the stream
Yes.
where it was announced.
Yeah.
And we heard the story,
Right.
that the person said, I've been informed by someone close to True Helper that this has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were.
Um,
And I'm sorry if I'm missing saying hi to anybody who's here. Thank you so much for coming in. Clary says it was someone from this community who announcement. Yeah, I saw it being within this community because he's involved in this community and is and was friends with people in this community. So that's what I would see. Tawanda says it was a person from another community that put it in Jenny's chat. Okay.
okay.
Okay. Thank you for the correction on that then.
Yes, thank you. And so, that goes back to my point that he didn't do it. But who knows? Maybe he was hoping it would get announced on YouTube. But the thing is, we'll never know. We'll
Yeah.
never know if it was supposed to be announced, if that's what he wanted, or if he never intended for it to be on YouTube. We don't know, because we do know what happened. That it was in the chat, then someone came up on the panel and talked about it and asked for prayer, and that's how the story came out. But it
Well, and
didn't. Go ahead.
I guess my take on that is that, listen, at one point I was hospitalized, and I told my people, my people that I was going to the hospital. So I did want some people on YouTube to know that I was okay, what had happened, and that I was okay. And that was the beginning and the end of it. And I saw that as being the beginning and the end of the announcement. This happened. Can you pray? If not, send good vibes. If not, just so you know, because this is a member of our community. And that was pretty much the beginning and end of that situation from my perspective. You're totally entitled to your opinion, Vertigo Alley. We're not here to say anybody is a fraud or not at all. We're not. We're not
Yeah.
defending or trying to tear anybody down either way. I hope
Yeah.
that's clear.
Yeah. It's just, that struck me that, it seemed like some of his friends announced it without his permission. And I'm not trying to put them down, because, looking back on it, they probably, they thought about it. Or at least one of them I know said, "Oh, maybe I should have made sure."
Hindsight 2020 around
Yeah.
this place too.
Yeah, yeah. So, but he didn't make the announcement, and so we'll
Right.
never know, if he meant for the story to be on YouTube. We'll never know. And
Mhm.
so, if he didn't intend for it to be on YouTube, then, we don't know if he intended to use that story to emotionally scam people, because we
Right.
don't know if it was supposed to get out there,
And
is my point.
yeah, and I'm going with a no on that one because I didn't see an ask after the fact. So, liar or not, I'm going with a no in my mind. I'm not telling anybody else what to think, but that's what I think. And yeah, this whole emotionally scamming people, I know that that's a thing now, right? Because we've seen it with other people who were asking for money. They were asking for you to cry. I saw people crying in people's chats that someone that didn't have cancer had cancer and all of this. And I do think that is wrong. A normal Rational mind will tell you that's not correct to do to people.
Right.
But I didn't see a big ask there, is all I'm saying. So
Right.
that's where my mind goes on the judgment side.
So, okay, the other way that it's being claimed that he emotionally scammed people is by not being honest about who he is to people in recovery that he was helping behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And the way that they know that is by looking up his Facebook. And the
Mhm,
they is the true helper exposers
mhm.
or accusers looked up his Facebook.
So, because I too have helped people behind the scenes at times, and people behind the scenes help me all the time, you're a really good example of that. Um, you know, I understand that people don't know the ins and outs of what goes on in personal relationships that are not broadcast on YouTube. But that being said, I do have experience with 12-step programs, extensive experience. And I'm going to tell you guys this. You might not know it. You might not know. But the letter A in NA, Narcotics Anonymous, it stands for anonymous. And one of the things that happens when you pick a sponsor, okay, if you're new to recovery, not years in or whatever, you might need a sponsor years in, but when you pick a sponsor, you get to maintain your anonymity. You share what you're comfortable sharing. Um, you know, in my experience, the people who were willing to sponsor me or I could work with and sponsor them didn't need a whole lot of my personal information. And there was no accusation of emotional scamming. So this is a new concept to me because I'm sorry, when you go look up the definition of AA, NA, and all of this, it's anonymous. And we have problems with people getting looked up around here. So, if you tell me your name is Bob, and you're still there to sponsor my inability to keep myself from relapsing, then Bob, I want to thank you. And I don't need to know if you're Bob Jones, Bob Smith, Bob White, Mr. Pink. It doesn't matter. That's my 2 cents on the sponsorship thing.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in recovery, but I just would think that if someone from YouTube were helping me, I would expect that they would keep some, if not all of their anonymity because they're from YouTube, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what we do on YouTube is try to
Well,
keep our anonymity. And so, you know, I would try to rely on people local to me and not that YouTube person, you know?
right. And that's difficult right now because of COVID, right? But let's say somebody's got, I don't know, 50 sponsors, okay? Um, and they're all happen to be online because people are spreading themselves around right now because not everybody's always available. But you can call these phone numbers, right, for the national helpline. They can give you remote meetings. They have Zoom meetings that you can attend, all of these sorts of things. But the whole saying that God helps those that help themselves. Um, it's not less true just because it's 2020 or 2021. That is still a thing. The other thing is one of the key factors about working a 12-step program um, is that you don't develop the same sort of personal relationships with your sponsor that you would with, say, your girlfriend or your wife or your best friend. And the reason why is because this promotes something called codependency. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're dependent on a single person for all of your needs, that may no longer be a sponsor for you. That may be somebody that you're using in a different manner. And I'm going to leave it at that because I think I've been pretty clear.
Tawanda said that, just for the record, I sought him out for help. He never offered it to me. So it wasn't like he was going around to everybody saying, "Can I help you? Can I help you? Do you need me?" You
Yeah.
know. Um, Christy A says that she couldn't even get in an outpatient clinic. So she's saying that there is an
Yeah.
issue with getting local help. Um, So, I would just say that, if you are relying on people that you don't know very well, just, I just feel like you should try to understand that if they're on YouTube, they do need to keep some of their anonymity, even though they're trying to help you.
Well, in the first year of your recovery, right? The 12-step program, we can go Google this or whatever right now. You're not even supposed to be in a relationship with anybody. Why? Because you're not healthy enough to have that. So these clingy sort of, I need this, I need that, I need, that feeling is very similar to, what sets you off into that relapse situation anyway. And I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a recovery professional. My recovery story is very different from most people. Um, but I will say that the people who know what they're doing, they tell you not to become emotionally attached or involved to the sponsor because you may just need a new one 2 weeks from now. And it is to prevent the codependency. So, yeah, suck it up, buttercups. I'm sorry, I had to do it too.
So, getting on kind of a different subject, but the being emotionally scammed behind the scenes thing. You and I both feel like we've been emotionally scammed by people from YouTube behind the scenes, and we never brought it to YouTube.
Right.
So the question is, should we be? Because I don't feel like we should.
Well,
Um,
it does seem to generate people a lot of super chats for the moment that they're in it, right?
yeah.
So if you're desperate for money and attention and things like this, maybe. But in my opinion, no. And I think because for me, look, this is YouTube, but it is the internet and it's permanent. And I don't want my legacy to be that I came here, had a personal problem with someone, and spent a year or 2 years or 2 weeks or 2 minutes fighting with them about it. I just don't want that to be my legacy. So if you want that to be your legacy, then yeah, I guess that's how it's handled. But not for me.
Yeah, I mean, we never brought those personal situations to YouTube because we just didn't want to hurt someone's reputation and cause them to be alienated by the entire community because of our experience with them, you know, personally, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a very it's the source of content now. So kind of is a little disturbing.
Right. It's
And
beyond disturbing.
we
Christy
have
brings
yeah,
Go
we
ahead.
have so many great comments in the chat. I hope the chat's not mad at us because
I don't know.
it's
It's
kind
so
of a
hard.
deep subject, so we're just kind of moving along through it.
Well, and Christy says, "I don't understand when he was not anyone's sponsor, why did they have the right to look him up?" In my opinion, if I'm the Judge Judy of the situation, they don't, right? And that's just my opinion. But even more so, if it was a sponsor relationship, it's the word anonymous is in the name of the organization that's everything's founded on. Anonymous. I mean, do we not have a proper grasp of the English language or something? What's going on?
Well, look, here's the other problem that I see
All
is
right.
because I heard that the fact that he wasn't being honest about who he really is was very upsetting to especially the people that
Mhm.
he was helping, right?
Yeah.
And um, look, just because you have someone's Facebook or other private personal social media, it doesn't mean that it's going to identify who they really are or
Yeah.
what they really do for their occupation. Um, I am friends with a lot of police officers on Facebook, okay? But on their profiles, they do not identify what they do for a living or
Right.
even use their real names on Facebook, okay?
Mhm.
If you saw their profiles, you would think that they were a farmer or a fisherman
Mm.
or you would have no clue
They talk
what their
about their
name
hobbies,
is.
huh?
Right.
Smart.
You would have no clue what their occupation is or what their real name is if you found their Facebook. So you can't rely on someone's personal, private social media to tell you everything about a person.
Yeah, you can't, because people are showing you what they want to see. Like Clary said, some people get in arguments on Facebook and they get messy, messy, messy. Yeah, I mean, not everybody shares all of their stuff online because they know how gross it is, especially in the United States. Apparently, we have no protections on our information. So, let's see.
Oh my goodness. Morgsy says, I once almost accidentally got sent to a Scientology detox. Guess what? They use no meds to detox you there.
Mhm. Yeah, I could talk about that, by the way. And yeah, Morgsy said that I believe, yeah, she obviously looks like a beautiful she. Um, would like to hear, or I'll talk about my story about recovery, but everybody will hate it. You'll hate it because I'm sorry, it's not the norm at all. But yeah, I would be happy to. And Christy says she would love to tell her story. So we could set something up on my channel if you guys want to talk about that. I just don't want anybody thinking that, I think I'm special because I know I'm not. I know that I was guided by a higher power. I wasn't, you know, invincible and on my own. It just worked magic. But it sounds pretty fantastical too, by the way.
Yeah, Donna makes a great point that,
Usually, yeah.
especially with the cops that I know, is that they're protecting their families as well as themselves by not
Yeah.
divulging, who they really are, even on their Facebook accounts.
Mhm. Well, and here's the other thing, like if we start talking about our story, are people going to start like looking stuff up and make sure it's true? Like is that where we are now? Maybe I forgot the date that I called the doctor's office. I don't know. You going to look it up? Sorry, I'm being a smart ass.
Life
But
Rewinded said, so glad you have brought up the privacy and oath, which I
yep.
have yet to hear anyone speak about.
Yeah, let me see. I did a little digging just to make sure back in my old stuff. But one of the things that I did find, and this, there's so many recovery centers because there's a lot of money in addiction, by the way. These people are not always doing it. By these people, I mean corporations are not always doing it out of the kindness of their heart. If you go look at like Celebrity Rehab or one of these television shows, you can tell big, big money, right? But one of the things I was reading was talking about avoiding over dependence and abusing uh, your sponsor during sponsorship. That's a thing now, where people become overly dependent on a sponsor. And so you can say, well, technically that person isn't a sponsor, but if you're calling them every few moments, and I know some of these people's calling patterns when they're in the situation, they may call you 30, 40, 50 times a day. um, you know, a newcomer to recovery may feel anxious and they need to be calling and look, I'm going to do this. I'm feeling like that, that sort of thing. But one of the main things they tell you is to not fall into the trap of being unable to give tough love because people do need to be able to stand on their own a little bit and then have that sponsor to be able to guide them into the behaviors that they want to be moving forward into because to me sobriety was a decision. And some people don't make their own decisions. Some people have the decision made for them. But it's very, very important not to abuse these people that are, in fact, trying to help you. And guess what? If they're emotionally scamming you, give them the middle finger and walk on. Go. There's plenty of other people that you can talk to. I'm sorry. There are. Anyway, sorry, that was my rant because I went through that in my
That
own
was
life.
good.
I went through that in my life, not about YouTube, about my life.
So, so we went through that pretty quickly. Actually more quickly than I thought. There is one last thing or issue that the accusers had with True Helper.
Okay.
And I probably should touch on it very briefly. But that is the issue of the giant bones story. Because apparently that was very off-putting to some people. And actually one of the accusers said that that was the moment that they knew that he was full of crap.
Right.
The interesting thing about that is that I remember when True Helper told that story on the panel, and when he was telling that story, I knew exactly what he was talking about because it's actually something that I've researched. Because I research strange stuff, okay? And so I knew what he was talking about, and he never, from what I remember, and I'm going to check the chat to see if they correct me, but I do not remember him ever saying the words Bigfoot or Sasquatch or dinosaur.
Yeah, I think that came from other people, didn't it? Assuming.
Yes, those are words that were used by True Helper's exposers, but not him. And so the research that I've done on this subject is, and I'm going to point everybody to a free movie on YouTube. The YouTube channel is called YouTube Movies. It's an hour-long little free movie. It's called A Race of Giants. And so basically it explains that there are I believe it's over 1,500 news articles from the 1800s and the 1900s from publications like the New York Times about giant human skeletal remains found in the U.S., all over the U.S., in Nevada, Tennessee, Minnesota, Arkansas, New York, California. Some of these skeletal remains were documented to be up to 12 feet tall, human remains. Okay. And they were usually found by miners or people digging, doing a dig for like building a sawmill or something like that. And so it's really interesting because, even these race of giants are spoken of by Native Americans. And the Native Americans said that they killed this giant race because they were man-eaters. And so they had to kill them off or they would be eaten by this race of people. And so I knew that True Helper was referring to that type of discovery. And so there's a whole, theory that because it was documented that there were exhibits about, of these bones after they were discovered, and those exhibits have completely vanished. And so there are theories that the discoveries of these bones have been covered up by governments and institutions. So, it's just an interesting, little bit of history and Native American legend. And so, look, I don't know if True Helper found large, giant human skeletal remains. he may have just been copying a story that he had
Mhm.
heard, because he had heard about this. But people all over the world have found these types of things and documented it.
And
Um,
you knew what he was talking about when he was talking about it,
yeah,
whereas
because
most people did not. But there are people in the chat that looked into the same thing, saw documentaries on it, they've heard of this.
okay, good. Yeah, and you don't have to believe in the explanation of the giant skeletal
Right,
remains. If you go check out that documentary on YouTube Movies called A Race of Giants. Um, but what was interesting is that when True Helper was questioned about this on the Whiskey Project, he clarified it and said, yes, I'm talking about like the Ohio mounds. And, he clarified that he was talking about the exact thing that I knew he was talking
mhm,
about when he brought it up.
right.
Unfortunately, he didn't give enough explanation of it when he brought it up on the panel initially. But it bothers me that people put words in his mouth like Bigfoot and Sasquatch when he didn't use those words. And if he was misunderstood in that instance, I just wonder if he was misunderstood in other instances as well. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
but it's very, you can relate to this 100% because listen, this is my advisor, if you haven't met her. Sometimes I'll say things because I assume people may have a background in it, right? Um, or have heard about it, but they don't. They don't understand it. It can be very, very difficult to give background if you're not an expert, by the way, which I'm not on things that I talk about a lot of the time, and I admit it. I can be wrong. If you're not an expert on the topic, if it's just something that happened and it got you more interested in it, and then also we have time constraints. People have jobs, they have children, they have wives and husbands and boyfriends and dogs and cats and all this other crap. Like you cannot always um, educate everybody on. And then you also have a whole group of people who may just think you're crazy for thinking that these sorts of things exist when you saw them with your own eyes. And I'm not saying if he did or he didn't. I don't know the man. I don't know if he's an honest man. I'm just saying that sometimes it is very hard to give enough background to lend yourself credibility on the internet in a short period of time. That's all.
Right. And just because you're ignorant about a topic, it doesn't mean that you should discredit the person that's speaking about the topic.
Right.
you know? And so I wasn't ignorant about the topic. So,
Mhm.
I understood him. I understood what he was referring to. So I just felt like it was unfair to put words in his mouth that made him look, whatever, crazy or whatever.
Well, Clary says, "But why do people care? That's what's bugging the hell out of me. Who gives a rat's ass if he found a freaking bone? Why is it important?" You
Well,
know,
it was stated that that was one of the things that, just made people go over the edge. It was like, oh, that's it. This guy is a crazy liar because of this bone story.
on top of everything else, he didn't want to share his name, and he found Sasquatch when it wasn't Sasquatch. Wakey, wakey.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I guess one reason why I feel bad for him is because
I do
I've
too.
watched I've watched a lot of documentaries, right, about these bones findings
Mm.
and artifacts and
You
exhibits
have
and
you have DM'd me images of those bones being
yeah,
excavated,
yeah.
and I had nightmares. It looks real to me.
Yeah. And so I guess I just felt bad for him because I put myself in his place and I was like, I would never try to explain that in this community normally. Like I am uncomfortable explaining it right now. but I feel like I have to. But you kind of have to be in the right community to talk about stuff like that. This would not be normally a good place.
No,
Um,
no, not at all. And it's no slight on anybody in the community. It's just not what the focus of this community is, you know?
right. Yeah. I
It isn't,
mean,
and
yeah.
you might, maybe people are trying to find their way around and see what they can talk about. I think most of us have made mistakes about what we should and should not say on our own channels or in chats. I'm sorry, I'm guilty of it as well.
Right. Yeah, because you and I, we research a lot of stuff and talk about a lot of different subjects that we
I thought
would
you were gonna say, "Yeah, you fuck up a lot," because I do. I'm sorry.
no. And a lot of times we're like, yeah, we'll never talk about that on YouTube,
And
because
also, Vinny found at least 2 kangaroo bones today. Breaking news. There was something here that I wanted to, call out here. British Chippy said, "I think it's just that they were trying to collect a bunch of stories to invalidate." And I have to say, I agree. It sounded like that to me, what little I did hear initially and then have to go back and listen to. Because if you can poke enough holes in a person's stories, then you've effectually poked enough holes to disappear the person, right? You just invalidate them entirely. I agree with that, Chippy.
but
Thank you, Nada.
honestly though, it's not really a great idea to come here and have a bunch of fantastic, hard to believe
Yeah.
stories and life experiences because it does, like,
If
you
I
know,
told you guys, if I told you that I had a live the other day and I said something like, "Oh yeah, back before COVID when I was like DJing," and people were like, "You're a DJ?" And I was like, "Oh my God, here we go." Because I showed you my resume, right?
yes,
If I went on my channel and I talked about all the different jobs I did, would they call me a liar? They would.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. Eritrea has a crazy amount of interesting work experience.
And none of you would believe it. And that's
Yeah.
okay. I barely believe it. I don't know how I survived the shit. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've told you stuff about myself that you're like, "I can't believe you did
Mhm.
that,"
Yeah.
like,
You're
that
like, "What
doesn't
is this?
you're
That is
like,
weird."
"That doesn't sound like you at all,"
I know. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we all have some crazy life experiences, probably every single one of us, if we really talked about a
Mhm.
lot of things that we've done or seen in our life, people on here would think we were making it up,
Mhm.
you know? And
Yeah, they would.
that's definitely true with True Helper, and, he was saying the other day, "I've had a lot of crazy life experiences,"
Mhm.
and
And if
no
you live long enough, you will. You will. It's like people who say, "My whole family's dead." I'm telling you, my whole family's dead. I lived long enough. It's not my whole family, but,
Listen, Donna wants to know if you're trying to say that you get fired a lot. And listen, Donna,
I missed
okay.
Donna's comment. Where is she?
Donna, she's done a lot of contract work, which
Yeah.
is really cool because when you do contract work, you get a lot of diverse experience. So that's why she doesn't get fired a lot.
Alright. Let's see. They want me to read Blackhearted's comment. I screwed something up again. Jeez. Uh, uh, okay. So, Blackhearted says, "At Clary, maybe because the person questioning the bone has bone envy. I have seen some pics to back up my theory on the bone saga." Well, can you keep those images to yourself? Because now I'm gonna have nightmares about teeny weenies. Oh my god.
Thank you, Blackhearted, for that.
Little breaking of the ice there. She's gonna miss it. Oh, no, she isn't. You know why? Because 'Cause I've had lots of jobs, so I know how to run things. I'm just kidding.
Clary, your humor is not wasted in here. We
No, we
just
love
didn't
you
see
guys.
the comment.
She's
we
yelling at me.
listen, we have been pretty serious during this stream because it's kind of serious because there are people that feel hurt
Yeah.
and we're talking about recovery and it's kind of a deep, I don't know, serious subject.
Yeah.
We normally try to have more fun than this. Our last stream, we got a lot of compliments about how fun that was. And so I'm sorry if this one's been a little bit more serious, but we just don't want to
I
be
don't wanna make fun of them.
inappropriate.
Yeah. I don't wanna make fun of anybody. I don't wanna make fun of addicts. I don't wanna make fun of people trying to help addicts. I don't wanna make fun of people getting shot or crying or, being upset or prayers. None of it. It's not a joke. None of it. But
Yeah.
honestly, I know that there's a hard your people are having a hard time right now getting support because of COVID. I understand that. And also insurance can, be a barrier to getting help too. But um there are resources out there and they're making a little bit more money based on the fact. But I have a quick question right now. CCK says, you said the ones that don't like him need to go. Is him true helper? I don't if I said that, I don't know what I meant by it, but I don't think anybody needs to go. If you could clarify for that for us, I would be happy to respond. Sorry, CCK. Clary's laughing at me.
Hey, Karma.
Hey, Sin. Sorry, we didn't get to say hi to some of you guys coming in. Just because we were like, okay, yip yapping away.
Yeah, Clary didn't hear you say that either. So she must
All
have
right.
just misunderstood something that you said.
Okay. Well,
British Chippy said that she wishes she had a bone. So
every
there
now
you
and
go.
then, a good bone, a good bone could fix a lot of this community's problems. I'm just saying. Wildflower, wildflower. Hi. You could always start a YouTube business. Like, I don't know. Yeah, that's not happening. That's not happening.
You could do it though, because Eritrea does know how to mix some juices, so she probably could figure out how to make some candles, right?
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not into flammable materials, and that's what people like around here. The people have spoken. Yeah, I don't know what's happening here in the chat, but I'm trying to figure out. There's a little. Is there a disagreement here that I'm missing?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on.
Okay, hang on one second. I wouldn't say if you like True Hope Helper, then you need to go to any other playground. Am I misunderstanding? I don't think, no, I think people are allowed to like and dislike whoever they want. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I like people that like True Helper. I don't know him and I don't dislike him, for the record. So, anyway, I don't think
Right.
we have a disagreement.
And we also we what?
Life Rewind, it says some people need a long, stiff bone in the keister. Sorry, that was good.
Um, we try to give kudos on our streams, and I think this week, well, by default, the Whiskey Project wins the kudos
Mm,
because we could. I mean, I'm going to be honest, we couldn't even think of anybody else that that we wanted to, but also because she did a great job moderating her stream with True Helper.
she did,
Um,
yeah.
and one of his accusers the other night, and that was, I mean, it was really difficult, and my heart went out to her because she had, I mean, a friendship with both of them. And so you could tell
Mm,
she was trying to be as fair as she could possibly be, and so she did a great
yeah,
job. So
yeah.
she deserves kudos for that.
So, yeah, I don't think that's a panel that in fact, I know for a fact that's a panel I could not have run, so fairly. I think it was very kind, very fair, and everybody got to, allegedly speak their truth. I hate saying that.
I know.
I hate that term, but everybody loves it. So I'm pandering to you guys. I hope you appreciate it.
And
I can
everybody in the chat agrees that she did a great job. So
Yeah. Yeah, she did. She did a great
I hope
job.
I've been saying her channel name the correct
Yeah, I
new
think she's
way.
calling look, I wasn't subscribed and I've known look, people don't know this, but I have known Whiskey Gypsy. She's probably like one of my first YouTube friends. We just don't talk all the time sort of thing, but we do talk on occasion. And I felt like she always tried to be fair, even when she was kind of dipping and cracking jokes on people. She was never overly mean. And I always appreciated her honesty about that. And people really do like her. Some people don't. But you don't have to like everybody, but she does deserve the kudos. I'm sorry, Chippy. I will continue to watch your content and see if I can find your kudos. I'm sure you deserve them too. But this week it does go to Whiskey Project.
Christy A feels like that we did a good job tonight with covering this, and that means a lot coming
It
from
does.
you. So I really appreciate it. We really we are trying to just be logical and fair, and just you know describe things as we can see it from our point of view, from
Yeah.
an outsider's point of view.
Yeah. And there's a lot more things I could say. So I won't. I'll save you guys the issue. But yeah, I think, when it comes down to stuff like this, it's very touchy subject. There are people that are very passionate on both sides of it. And addiction in and of itself, if you are an active addict and you found a friend to help you out, um, God bless you. Good job on finding someone and taking the first step into getting things in order for yourself, because it really is one of the hardest things to do, is admitting that you're not perfect, admitting that you need someone outside of yourself, you know,
Yeah.
maybe another human. Uh, and I have a really hard time. I have a really hard time doing accepting help myself. So, anybody who has gone to anybody for help, I commend you, especially if you realize your life is in jeopardy and people need you on this planet, maybe not on YouTube, but, you matter in the world. And just day to day, what I would say is I hope that we're thinking about every day when we go live on YouTube or we have interactions with people, the more and more that the world becomes hell, just let's think about what are we fighting for? What do we really care about? And what do you want your permanent legacy to be? I don't know. My thoughts. I feel like Jerry Springer's final thoughts.
I like Nada's Kitchen's comment. She says, I think a lot of lurkers need kudos for staying lurkers and knowing that we shouldn't speak, because if we don't have something nice to say, we shouldn't say anything at all.
Yeah.
And that is one reason why I don't say much in chats myself, because I'm like, you know what? I don't think I can say anything nice right now. So I'm just going
Well,
to not
and
type.
if you understood, the concept of giant bones, possibly being one of five different things, let's say, you wouldn't necessarily have the time to explain all of this stuff to someone. So sometimes you have to censor yourself as to not confuse people. And yeah, Nada always comes in clutch with the good comments. I look to you guys for advice. So thank you so much. Thanks for being here. I got a compliment. Thanks.
Angie says it's not a Jerry Springer episode till someone picks up a chair and
All
almost
right.
throws it.
Okay. You know what?
Almost throws it.
Listen, I don't have the fee to pay her to do it. Otherwise, it could happen. Welcome in, Angie. Good to see you, by the way. All right. Well, I think on that note, that's all we really had to cover. Christy, if you would like to come to my channel ever, feel free to email me. My email's in my about on my Eritrea channel. I would love to have you up and talk, but do it when you're ready. I'll talk about mine and it will piss everybody off.
Cool.
Yeah. Katja just threw a chair. All right, show's over.
Yep, that's
See you
it.
guys next time. Thank you for being here. Anything else? Any parting
Thank
words?
you, everybody. And listen, I know that we didn't read aloud a lot of the comments in
My
here,
fault. My fault.
but no, it's probably my fault. But I will go back and read every single comment. So,
Yeah.
just know that we will see your comments.
She's anal like that. She will.
I know that I missed a lot of good comments, and I hate that.
And I should say, if you guys have a suggestion for a topic you would like us to talk about, go ahead and leave a comment in the comment section on this video or any video, any upload. But if you feel shy because you're a lurker, you can email us at lurkerslogic@gmail.com and we'll read it. Just don't use it to try to get a hold of anybody, okay? Because it's not for that. But thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you, Jenny. And everybody make sure that you go over to Jen's channel on Wednesday night and show her some love
And
because
Sunday nights.
and Sunday too. But Wednesday is the next one coming up.
All right. Thanks, lurkers, mods, and chatters. Good night, everybody.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.